Hello, people. How you doing? This is the Lee Cole 3 podcast with my partner, James Proctor. And this is our daily wrap-up for April. It's our third wrap-up, 3 months in a row. And we promised that we were going to bring this to you consistently at the end of each month or at the beginning of the following month within that 3 or 4 day period. So we're going to bring this to you today. This will be going up Sunday. And I'd just like to make a couple other things. I'd like to thank everybody in this channel that has supported this channel. This month, we've gained 365 new subs in the month. And we also, this month, 145,000 views. And that's averaging 4 videos a week. And we just like to support, thank you for your support. And there's a lot of new people coming in. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And we're going to try to keep putting up quality product. Me not mispronouncing names. That's not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, but thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm very, just very excited about the growth of the channel. And, we're getting a lot of good feedback from people for the shows. We're just going to do the best we can, have good content, and just thank you for all the support we've been seeing.
And this week we've heard about drugs, people that have shows, content creators getting in very serious trouble with drugs. And we're going to talk about one in particular, a friend of mine. But he did a video where he's yelling my name, Lee, 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 in the video. He's on the side of the road in Texas. And a lot of people said to me, Lee, that's weird. Why is he doing that? I'm going to explain that, why you're doing that. But as people know, Rob goes to court tomorrow. I have no idea what they're going to do. In reality, the man needs help. If they put him back out in the street, just as he's coming out of a car from a drug, from all the drugs he's been doing, I'd be shocked. But we'll see what happens. And you, James, you're friends with Rob too, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And some people have been saying horrible stuff about Rob. You have to understand, when people have drug addictions, they become horrible people. And that's just who they become. Making fun of them, think about in your family. Do you have drug addicts in your family, drug addiction in your family? I'm sure everybody here does. Yeah. And everybody remembers how low people got when they are on drugs. But anyway, let's talk about Rob. So, okay, we'll put this up 1 second. Okay, so we'll talk about Rob first. So what is your opinion about what happened to Rob this the last 3 days? He goes on the run, he goes on the road. He violates probation from traveling out of state. And I'm saying this stuff because they know what he did already.
Yeah.
This ain't new information. He's already been charged with it.
Right.
And so what do you think about that? I mean, it's obvious that Rob's in deep trouble, ain't he?
Yeah. You got to understand, when someone is, got a problem with drugs, that they're not going to be in their right mind. Also, it just, to me, when I see all of this, it's in some ways it's a cry for help. But, for me, my concern was as much for just people out in the general public. He could have gotten an accident, could have ran someone over. I was actually surprised he was able to make it back to Arkansas without, getting an accident or, getting arrested. So really, it's probably the best that, he was able to get help or get arrested there back in Arkansas.
And they violated. They were waiting for him.
Yeah, exactly. I just want him to get help. He's been, really struggling. I would say, I don't think he ever dealt with it when he came out of prison. He's, to me, it's, he acts like someone that's a teenager or someone low maturity.
The day he got out of prison, the first thing he said is, I went out and had a beer. I had these discussions with Rob. It went in one ear and out the other, but this is what's normal. And just so you know, Rob was on the side of the road and he kept yelling my name in a video. His wife took it down, I believe. Thank God. It was kind of creepy. But when Rob was on the road, he called me. And I told him to stop by my place because I was a little bit worried about him. But he told me at that time that he was not using or he wasn't high. And the next thing I knew, he started calling me and I could tell on the phone he was stoned. So I did not want to deal with him at that point in my home because I didn't know what he had in his car. and I'm not going to get in trouble for what someone's carrying on them. He could be followed here by a cop. Next thing I know, I'm arrested because he's in here and he has drugs on him. But he put himself in a horrible spot. I hope that everything works out for him. I just wanted to give you people I'm not going to really talk about it no more. When Rob gets out, if he gets out, he might be going back to state prison. Who the hell knows? It's going to be up to the government. I mean, he doesn't live in California, so he probably is going to be going back to jail. Okay. So where do you want to go next? We have some interesting stories. You have an idea where you want to go next?
Yeah, we could talk about, Mikey Scars and
Jimmy Calandra.
Jimmy Calandra.
Now that's a very, why don't you just start kind of breaking it down?
Yeah. So earlier in the month, Mikey Scars had done a live a show, and he was talking about some of the people that he dealt with on the street. He had talked about several people, and one of them was Jimmy Calandra, because he knew Jimmy from when Jimmy was a kid growing up, and then specifically when he was part of the Bath Avenue crew. And so he was there was some comments that Mikey made about the neighborhood. As you know, Bensonhurst, and specifically there in the Bath Beach neighborhoods, it was a center of mob activity. There was all five families had had social clubs there. I would say it was probably the highest concentration of mafia activity in the United States at the time. And so what Mikey was saying is that this was a safe neighborhood, and so what happened was that Jimmy took exception to it, and so he did a live two days ago, and has basically said a few things. And one was that Mikey was a nice guy. I don't know if that was condescending. He really meant it, but he did. I thought it was pretty fair with him. But you have to look at the perspectives. In my opinion, you have if you're a civilian, if you're someone that just going to go to work every day, come back home, it was safe as far as murders, robberies, and all that.
Let me explain something. I lived on 11th Avenue, and I was in Bragg Street in Sheepshead Bay. I used to walk to work at like an hour in the morning because there was no bus. And this is when I was working at Scaturo's on 11th. I walked to those neighborhoods every damn day. There were no people running around the neighborhood killing each other. Did it happen? Yes, but usually it stayed between those people. If someone killed somebody, it was quick, boom, they moved the bodies off the street, that's it. But the neighborhoods, the houses were nice, the neighborhoods were clean. It was no ghetto.
Okay? And that's what I wanted to bring up. It was more of the, understand he was, there were each of these families had their own, what they call gangsters in training. They had teenage gangs. Those were recruiting arms for all the families. And I'll tell you, yes, indeed, if you were part of one of those gangs, it was dangerous. And that's where all the killings were. So, they were dealing drugs, they were robbing, they were stealing, but, they weren't going to rob within that neighborhood unless it was a drug dealer or something like that. But if you were in the gangs, if you was involved in that, yes, it was very dangerous. But, you have to take a perspective from being a civilian versus being someone that was in the gangs.
And then it was mentioned too that once again, Sparrow's a bad guy. Sparrow was part of a neighborhood that he ran.
Yeah.
So he ran gangsters. He ran murders. He was in charge of murderers, killers, and that was it. And so what I like to say to that, what were the Bath Avenue boys doing? They were doing a lot of bad things too.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I understand what Jimmy's saying. Okay. Jimmy's a little bit pissed, but the fact of the matter is the guys that got killed that you're talking about, most of them knew they were in the life and what was going to happen to them. Right. And it's an unfortunate thing, but it does happen in that life.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is The neighborhoods were good neighborhoods. They were solid neighborhoods, and people wanted to live in them. If you go to those neighborhoods now they're awful.
Yeah.
Not back then, not when you had Italian families living everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The mob basically stayed to itself. Sure, civilians get caught up in something. Doesn't that happen in any neighborhood, James?
Yeah, it does.
But at the same time, you got to respect Jimmy's opinion. You got to respect. Mikey's. And what we do know about Mikey is Mikey got, and even Jimmy said this. Mikey got him jobs and stuff. All of them, the whole crew. So that should be remembered. Okay, did Mikey rat and stuff? Yes, Mikey ratted, but Jimmy and his friends got jobs because Micky Scars went out of his way to get them jobs.
Right.
And at least Jimmy admitted that and put it and said it correctly.
Yeah, and he was also saying that he didn't see Michael around too much, the last couple of years, and so you got to understand that time frame in the 1993 time frame, 1993. That was when Michael. It was after Sammy Gravano had flipped and all of them had went to jail, and so Mikey at that point was involved heavily in the construction industry. He's working with Eddie Garofalo, and he was just really involved in the unions, everything. So, I could see why, he wouldn't be as involved in the neighborhoods back then. He was in Manhattan and other places with the families dealing with, he had more responsibility. So, he wasn't able to be as close to the, the neighborhood as before.
Okay, then we're going to get into another thing. This is our next thing. The I Hate John Gotti Jr. Movement. There's certain guys doing it, but there's one particular guy, and I consider him a friend of mine, so I'm not going to mention his name. We're not friends like we hang out, but we talk to each other every once in a while. Yeah. Okay. John Gotti Jr., if you believe he did a 302, that's fine. But if you need to talk about it every show, and if you need to do lives where you sound angry and screaming and mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, we understand. Okay, you hate John Gotti Jr. How many times are you going to say it? Over and over and over, like every show? And the people on this John Gotti movement, I did spiteful things. I talked about John Gotti when Angel Gotti and I were fighting. I shouldn't have done it, but I did do it. And but the reality is this: no matter what you think of John Gotti, he went to prison. He did his time. And for people out here saying, there's all these people out here saying how bad the mafia was, how evil they are and stuff. But when most of you came into this genre, it was because of those gangsters. And now all of a sudden you guys are running around like, I hate gangsters. But a year ago, you didn't hate them. So, that's what's going on.
Yeah, and that's, what's really odd to me is that you've got this, it's kind of even a higher, kind of I'd say more of a overarching situation that doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems like you'll have certain people on certain sides, and that means that if you're on this side, you can't like, John Gotti, but if you're on this side, you can't like someone else.
Oh,
so
like on this side, you can't like Mikey. You
Micky
can't like
Scars
Mikey,
or
you can't like. It's both sides. You can't like people because we don't like them. I got an idea. Let everybody do their own show, and everybody else worry about their own show.
Yes.
But the main reason I'm bringing up the I Hate John Gotti Jr. movement is the fact because this person, and everybody knows who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say his name though. Does it every live he has, and he seems so angry, and he's shouting, and he's arguing with people. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah,
it really is. It's like it's just real creepy. My advice is like you said 3 months ago that you were never going to mention his name again, and that's all you've done in the last 3 months is keep mentioning his name. But
yeah, and what'll happen is that we know how there's trolls and everything. They're going to purposely go in there and try to ask questions about John Gotti
And that's
John
exactly
Gotti Jr. so he could respond.
that, and he falls for it all the time. They'll go in there and they'll put up an answer. He gets provoked easily by these trolls. It's
they're just trying to trigger him, I think.
And that's what these trolls do. They're not loyal to nobody. They're not loyal to me.
No.
Anybody on that side, they're not loyal. They're trolls. Let's remember what a troll is. A troll is somebody that doesn't show their face, but they'll write horrible things, or they have shows where they talk horrible about people. Horrible. But they don't have enough guts to show their face.
Right.
And this is what they do, because it's easy to be brave when you're hiding.
Yeah.
It's very easily. That's what cowards do. Okay. So our next story, let's see what our next one's going to be, James. Okay. So we got Mikey Scars. Okay. Now this is going to be an interesting one. This story is going to be a little bit longer. I didn't even know about this story. James wanted to do this story, so I'm going to let James do this story. James, I'm just going to put it up and shoot from the hip. And this is about Dominic Cicale talking about Bruno Indelicato, right?
Yep. That's what Indelicato. Yeah.
Okay.
You did it right.
So why don't you? That was a very interesting story, and it got a lot of views. So why don't you tell us something about that story? That story is a very fascinating story.
Yeah, the reason it's fascinating is that, it's actually, it's one of the most historic hits that ever happened. It's involving the three captains that were hit. We know that Phil Lucky, Giaccone, Sonny Red, and Indelicato, and, the big trend, Trinchero were all killed on May 5th of 81. So it was Joe Massino set them up. And what we know is the story that Bruno, the son of Sonny Red, was supposed to be the driver that day, but couldn't be found. So Frank Lino ended up going with the three capos instead of Bruno. And so we learned a lot more information from the show that Dominic did, last week, and so it gave some information that I'd never heard of, but it was actually it was definitely true, but it added to what happened with Bruno Indelicato after the hit on his father and the other two captains.
Okay.
And I could go. Do you want me to talk about the specifics?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Just give us the rundown on it.
Yep. So anyway, I told you, or told the audience, that he was supposed to be the one to be out there driving his father to the meeting, the setup. And so actually Bruno was out partying that night. At the time he had an issue with cocaine, partied a lot.
So drugs saved his life that night.
Exactly. And that was kind of the point that Dominic made, was that, actually the cocaine and the addiction that he had at the time, it actually saved his life. And so Bruno didn't know that night what had happened. He found out the next day what had happened to his father. So Bruno goes out on the lam because he knew that Joe Massino was after him. And anyway, Bruno was hanging out at a lot of the different, had places where he'd party, drug houses, that type of thing. And he was at a small boutique hotel in Manhattan. And so anyway, he was there. This was the night after the three capos were killed. And so what happened was Bruno was partying at one of these places, and Dominic's uncle, who is Pete the Neck, also known as, in the Goodfellas movie, he actually played the part of Pete the Killer, but his name's Peter Cicale. So he came to the door, and Bruno let him in, and they partied together. So that was part of how Dominic knew about this story, but also how Bruno had also told Dominic about it. But so that was what happened the next night. But then a few days later, Bruno's out at another drug supplier's house outside in his car, and it's idling. So the house is on a slope. He's waiting for the dealer to come out to his car. And then all of a sudden, Bruno hears two shots. He jerks forward against the steering wheel, and he had actually gotten shot by fragments of the bullet. And what he did for a minute or so, he pretended to be dead, wasn't moving. And then a minute later, he hears the car tire squealing and the car drives away. So he realized at that time that someone had came there to kill him.
And this was right. And people don't realize this was a couple days after the captains were killed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. And
Joe
then,
Massino found out about his location,
mhm.
and that's how they found him.
Right. And then what had happened is that they were, so Bruno, like I said, he was in his car. It was down the slope of a hill, and what Massino's people were doing, they were at the top of the hill, and so they were in a car. They were watching, so they turn off the lights. They put the car in neutral, and they just let the car coast down towards Bruno's car, so he wouldn't be seen or heard. Bruno was just in his car listening to music at the time, waiting on the drug dealers. So anyway, after all that happens, he gets shot. He takes off, and then a few blocks later, he blacks out, and then the car runs into a fire hydrant. And the paramedics come, they take him to the hospital. And what had happened is Bruno had a seizure, and he's had epilepsy all of his life. So he blacked out. He wouldn't tell anyone who his name was. The cops were on their way once he got to the hospital. So Bruno actually left the hospital with, he had gotten the, bandages and stuff on his head, and but he took off before the cops showed up. And so, we know the rest of the story after that Bruno goes into hiding down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then if you remember, Sonny Black Napolitano assigned Donnie Brasco, who's Joe Pistone, to kill Bruno. And then eventually Bruno gets arrested as part of that Mafia Commission trial. And then, he gets convicted, I believe, November 19th of 86 of the 1979 Galante murder. And then he gets released from prison in 98. But, I felt it was a really fascinating story because I'd never heard that story. I never knew that Bruno had gotten shot, and that this happened before he made it
and
down.
Bruno's a fascinating fellow because one, he's a tough guy. In the movie they make him sound like some wimpy kid hiding on a boat. Yeah. He was far from a wimpy kid hiding on a boat. This is a guy that was involved with the Galante hit. So they killed Galante. He was part of the hit crew, right? Is that?
Yeah, he's part of the hit crew. He got convicted of it.
Then he did his time in prison. And that's where he met, I believe, Dominic Cicale in prison, right?
I believe so. He got released in 98, and then, about that time is when Dominic got out of prison as well. And then, Bruno was one of the ones that helped to introduce Dominic to Vinnie Gorgeous.
And this is the stories, people, that, this is whether you like Dominic Cicale or not, and people say, oh, Lee Cole's talking about it. No, I'm not pumping his show up. I'm giving you facts, people. That's what we're here doing. Whether you like Dominic Cicale or not, his show right now is growing faster than any of these other shows. No one's noticing.
He's almost got 14,000 subscribers.
14,000 subscribers, and every video he puts out winds up with 20, 30,000 views. So somebody's watching him. That's what happens. He's putting out a product that people want to see. Me, I don't watch him, but my partner here, he watches everything. How do you think that he knows everything?
I just want to, my point is, it is saying that's history. That's my interest, is really the history. There's only a few, you can get history or events from law enforcement. You can get it from the attorneys, like we did last night with Cardinale, Gotti's attorney, and Frankie Lope's
and that's
attorney.
another thing. Let's talk about about that.
But then informants are a big part of it too. Unfortunately, if we want to get any of that history, 89% of the people out there that are on YouTube, that's in that life,
it's our job. It's our job as having shows here. If
Mhm.
we could prove their facts wrong, because a lot of them lie to change
Mhm.
history.
Mhm.
But if you don't have Mikey Scars here battling it out with Sammy Gravano, Sammy Gravano's history is going to last. But now you got somebody
Yeah.
questioning it.
Yeah.
But when we have shows too, we look at court documents, we look at the
Mhm.
302s and stuff. I have
Mhm.
no 302. I'm not a rat. You have
Right.
no 302. You're not a rat.
No. Mm-mm.
But that's what we got in the mob genre. People, we got people, and our jobs is to uh, call them out on things when they're not right,
Yeah.
and just do it in a professional manner. Um,
Right.
this show has been an attack show for a long time, but we've gone in a different direction, and the show's doing better than ever.
Right.
And that's what matters to us.
Mhm.
We want people watching us.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, whether you like these guys or not, people watch them. Even though
Mhm.
Sammy puts out bullshit history, you have Mikey Scars over there calling his history out.
Mhm.
So another thing is John Gotti 3 is going to fight Floyd Mayweather. And we've been hearing a lot of remarks like, oh, it's just an exhibition. Listen, people, we don't know what type of exhibition it is, what type of contract has been signed. For all you
Yeah.
know, they might go in there and someone might get knocked out. People get knocked out in exhibitions all the time. We don't know what's going to happen in that ring. That's going to be
No.
That's going to be interesting to see. But John Gotti 3 will fight Floyd Mayweather. I will bet you this about that fight. I will bet you that fight will outdraw all these other exhibitions that ever happened.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been. I know Floyd Mayweather's been. He's been doing some of these exhibitions the last 2 years. I know he got the one with
McGregor and
yeah and all that, and
uh,
it's going to be down in. It'll be in June,
it's
first part of
it's already
June.
sold out. I mean,
Mhm.
seat wise, I hear it's sold out. I might be wrong. There might be a few
Yeah.
seats left, but that's not what they're saying. So
Wow.
now it's going to be based on how many people will watch it on pay per
On
view.
pay-per-view, yeah, and it'll be down in Sunrise. That's where I used to live, Sunrise, Florida, and so suburb of Fort Lauderdale. So
Is
be
that what
interesting.
was that when you weren't an informant?
But
Because they all live down there.
yeah, yeah,
It's like informant heaven.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, this was. I'm not sure. There's a facility there. I know there's a hockey team maybe there
Yeah.
somewhere in Sunrise, but there's a concert facility, all that.
Nothing
So
like a hockey team in Florida.
yeah,
But anyway, actually,
yeah.
Tampa Bay Lightning got knocked out of the playoffs for the first time in I think 6 years in the first round,
Wow,
and
wow.
they've been very successful, a couple
Mhm.
Stanley Cups and everything. So
Yep.
that's kind of funny when you think about it.
Yep.
Uh, but is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, I've just been enjoying doing these shows. You know, a lot of people are saying, well, there's nothing going on in the mob, nothing to talk about. But it seems like every day there's something new that comes out, and honestly, I believe that this month there was a lot of good content that came out. I mean, I think it's even a stronger month than March, to be honest, with all that we saw out there with the
Anybody
industry.
that thinks the mob genre is dying,
Hmm.
they're wrong.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of it dying. If you don't put up good product, your numbers are going to go down. If you keep good product, your numbers will stay up. There
Hmm.
are a lot more people coming in though.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. You got to keep the people you have because you never know how much a video is going to have. If you can consistently get a certain numbers of uh, uh, every day,
Yeah.
that's what matters. Consistency. And I'm not talking about just one video. I'm talking about how many people watch your show, what's in your library, and that's what matters. You know.
Yeah.
And but besides that, James, I appreciate everything you've done. And
Yeah.
people, just so you know, I got this new thing, right? Because I never want to forget. Okay. Well, damn it, I don't have it. Okay. Anyway, please sub. Please hit the. Oh wait, there it is. Okay, people.
You found it?
Yes. How's that? Subscribe, like, share. Subscribe, like, share. Hit the bell for a reminder. Does that seem good enough?
That looks good.
Okay. Also, if you want to donate to support the show, you don't have to. Our bills will be paid no matter what. But if you do want to donate, right underneath there, that's been running. And that's Cash App. And there's also a little heart. If you prefer to do it that way, you can hit that heart and donate through there. And to the people that have been doing that, thank you very much. And just thank everybody. James,
please.
You have a nice one.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Also, folks, please, I know some people are saying they're not necessarily getting notifications. You just please hit the bell for all notifications. That way,
and here's what you do. If you hit for the notification and you're not getting a notification, unsub, sub again, then hit the reminder bell.
Yeah. There's just weird stuff with YouTube sometimes.
YouTube does that to everybody, people, unfortunately. Yeah. It sucks, but okay, everybody take care. Thank you very much. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you with a show like this next month, talking about May. God knows what's going to happen in May.
Well, we do have May 8th.
Oh, May 8th, Gene Barillo gets, he goes back to court, not sentenced. He goes back to court. We might get more of an idea what's going to happen to Gene. He's been out of action for a while. And I'll tell you what, when Gene's not around, you can really feel it.
Yeah.
You take that character out of here. It's like, hopefully he's sitting peacefully in his cell and thinking about the stuff that he's been doing. Yeah. Okay, James, you take care. Everybody take care. Thank you very much. Bye.